Porsche 356. This is where it all started. The Porsche 356, launched in 1948, was Porsche's first production car. It was built in a sawmill in Gmünd, Austria, using many Volkswagen Beetle parts. It had a rear-mounted, air-cooled flat-four engine that barely made 40 horsepower, but thanks to its lightweight and balanced handling, it felt lively and fun to drive. The 356 wasn't about raw speed. It was about precision, charm, and connection. Racers loved it. Weekend drivers adored it. It had style without being flashy. The Speedster version became a cult favorite for its low windshield and minimalist vibe. By the mid-1950s, Porsche had become a serious racing name thanks to this little coupe. The 356 competed in Le Mans, Targa Florio, and the Mille Miglia. Every evolution brought more refinement, better engines, stiffer chassis, lighter bodies. It was a car that evolved without ever losing its identity. The 356C in 1963 was the final and most polished version. By 1965, over 76,000 units had been sold. For a small company, that was huge. Collectors today pay six figures for pristine versions. It taught Porsche how to build cars that felt like an extension of the driver. It proved that performance wasn't just about horsepower. It was about weight, agility, and engineering discipline. The 356 laid the foundation for Porsche's DNA. Rear engine, pure focus, timeless design, and it would become the mold for every Porsche that followed. Porsche 911, classic 1964 to 1989. The 911 was never meant to be iconic. It just became that way. Launched in 1964 as a more modern replacement for the 356, it retained the rear engine layout. The design was simple but unmistakable. Round headlights, sloping roof, wide hips. It was air-cooled and tail-heavy, which gave it a reputation for being tricky to handle. But that quirk became its charm. Early models had 2.0-liter flat sixes with under 150 horsepower, yet felt razor-sharp. Porsche refined it every year, making it faster, more composed, and more fun. The 911 S, T, and E each brought new levels of performance. Then came the 1973 Carrera RS 2.7, with its ducktail spoiler and track-ready edge. It became a legend instantly, light, loud, and focused. Throughout the 70s and 80s, the 911 Turbo added boost to the formula. Also known as the 930, it was a handful at full throttle, earning the nickname the Widowmaker. Despite the growing power, Porsche never abandoned driver feel. The steering was alive, the chassis talkative, and the throttle unforgiving. It wasn't easy to drive fast. It demanded respect. By the late 80s, Porsche had ironed out many of its sharpest flaws, but it never stopped being a driver's car. This era ended with the 964, the last truly old-school 911 before modern tech took over. Yet even today, the classic 911 remains a benchmark, because sometimes imperfection is what makes a car unforgettable. Porsche 911, modern 1990 to present. The 911 had to evolve or die, and Porsche chose evolution. The 964 and 993 brought modern touches like ABS, power steering, and improved aerodynamics. But it was the 996 in 1998 that split the fanbase. Water cooling replaced air and the design became more corporate. Still, the performance kept climbing. The 997 refined everything, bringing back soul and sharpening the edges. By the time the 991 arrived, the 911 was a world-beating machine. The Turbo S had over 500 horsepower and could outrun supercars. Meanwhile, the GT3 became the halo car for purists. Naturally aspirated, manual gearbox, and a red line that touched the sky. Each generation got faster, more tech-heavy, and more precise. Porsche added rear-wheel steering, active aero, and double-clutch PDK gearboxes, yet somehow the 911 stayed true to its roots. Rear engine, flat six, driver-first philosophy. The 992 series continued the tradition, blending luxury and speed effortlessly. Now you can get AWD convertibles and even hybrid powertrains, but under it all, it's still a 911. Still a car that makes you want to drive. Still the benchmark. And still, unmistakably, Porsche. Porsche Cayman/Boxster 718 series. Sometimes the understudy steals the spotlight. The Boxster debuted in 1996, saving Porsche from financial ruin. It was mid-engined, affordable, and fun. Then came the Cayman in 2005, a coupe version with sharper reflexes. Together they offered 911-style dynamics at a lower price, but Porsche kept them dialed down to avoid stepping on the 911's toes. Still, their balance was unmatched. A mid-engine layout gives them incredible agility. The chassis is communicative and rewarding. Enthusiasts loved them, even if purists snubbed them. Then came the 718 era. Turbocharged 4 cylinders replaced the flat 6. The sound suffered, but performance jumped. Track-ready variants like the Cayman GT4 and 718 Spider brought the magic back. Naturally aspirated 4.0-liter engines, manual transmissions, real feedback. They were loud, raw, and emotional. No filters, no fluff, just precision and performance. Today, the 718 lineup is a legitimate threat to cars, twice the price. And to some, it's the best driver's car Porsche makes. Because sometimes less is more, and balance beats brute force. Porsche Taycan. This is Porsche's leap into the future. Launched in 2019, the Taycan is Porsche's first all-electric car, but it doesn't act like it. It's quick, yes. 0 to 60 in under 3 seconds in Turbo S trim. But it's also precise, composed, and confidence-inspiring. With dual motors and a 2-speed gearbox, it delivers instant power and high-speed efficiency. The steering is tight. The chassis feels low and planted. Unlike most EVs, it doesn't float. It attacks corners. The design is sleek, muscular, and unmistakably Porsche. Inside, it's tech-heavy but still focused. You can get everything from a base Taycan to the blistering Turbo S, and all of them feel alive. Range isn't record-breaking, but performance is the priority. It's the kind of EV that makes enthusiasts nod in approval. The Taycan proved that electrification doesn't mean the end of excitement. It means a new beginning, because Porsche didn't just build an electric car, they built an electric Porsche. And there's a difference. Porsche Panamera. 4 doors, full size, still fast. The Panamera was Porsche's answer to the executive sedan market. It debuted in 2009 to mixed reviews. People hated the rear end, but couldn't ignore the numbers. It handled like a smaller car and sprinted like a sports car. Over time, the design improved dramatically. The second-gen Panamera looked sleek and more 911 inspired. Inside, it was luxury meets cockpit. Touch-sensitive panels, digital displays, and real craftsmanship. But don't let the comfort fool you. The Panamera Turbo SE Hybrid made 690 horsepower and did 0 to 60 in 3.0 seconds. That's faster than some Ferraris. It came in multiple body styles: sedan, long wheelbase, and shooting brake. It was all-wheel drive, had adaptive suspension, and real cargo space. Perfect for long trips, quick sprints, or just flexing on the freeway. You could daily it or destroy lap times with it. The Panamera isn't a compromise, it's a demonstration that speed, style, and usability can coexist. When Porsche builds a sedan, it doesn't follow, it leads. Udix's Porsche Macan. Compact but still capable. The Macan is Porsche's entry into the compact luxury SUV market. It launched in 2014 and became the brand's best seller. Purists rolled their eyes. Porsche laughed all the way to the bank. But here's the thing. The Macan drives like a sports car. Its steering is better than most sedans. The chassis is stiff, the suspension dialed in. Even the base model feels planted. The Macan S and GTS add more power and sharper reflexes. And the Macan Turbo, it's legitimately quick. All-wheel drive comes standard, making it all-weather capable. You get 5 seats, decent cargo space, and Porsche build quality. Inside, it's clean, upscale, and tech-friendly. The infotainment is quick. The controls are tactile. It's not the biggest SUV, but it might be the most fun. Because Porsche didn't just make an SUV, they made a Porsche that happens to be an SUV. And that's why it works. Utility and excitement in one fast, functional package. Porsche Cayenne, the one that saved the company. In 2002, Porsche launched the Cayenne, their first SUV. The backlash was immediate, but then the sales figures came in. The Cayenne outsold everything else and gave Porsche money to go racing again. It was big, powerful, and shockingly agile. Early models came with V8s and even V6s for economy, but it was the Cayenne Turbo that grabbed headlines. A 4.5-liter twin-turbocharged beast with sports car acceleration. It could go off-road too. Real 4-wheel drive capability. Later generations became more refined. Lighter chassis, better handling, and sleeker looks. The Cayenne Coupe added a stylish twist. The Turbo GT version turned it into a track monster. It held records at the Nürburgring. You could take the kids to school and outrun sports cars on the way home. It wasn't just successful, it was essential, and it proved that Porsche could build anything and still make it feel like a Porsche. Porsche 918 Spyder. The 918 Spyder was Porsche at full throttle. A 4.6-liter naturally aspirated V8 paired with 2 electric motors. Total output, 887 horsepower and 944 pound-feet of torque. It hit 60 miles per hour in 2.2 seconds and topped out at 214 miles per hour. It was a plug-in hybrid that embarrassed hypercars. Built between 2013 and 2015, only 918 units were made. The monocoque chassis was carbon fiber. It had torque vectoring, rear-wheel steering, and adaptive aerodynamics. It held the Nürburgring production car record for a time. The 918 could run in full electric mode for short distances, but switched to race mode and it transformed. The V8 screamed past 9,000 RPM while the electric motors filled in every gap. It was a glimpse of the future wrapped in racing pedigree. You could daily it or take it to the track. It cost nearly $1 million when new, but it's worth far more now. It wasn't just a statement car, it was a milestone, proof that electrification could amplify performance, and proof that Porsche still knew how to shock the world. Porsche Carrera GT. The Carrera GT doesn't whisper, it screams. Powered by a 5.7-liter V10 originally built for Le Mans, 603 horsepower manual gearbox, carbon ceramic brakes, no stability control, no traction control, no excuses. This was the last analog hypercar. Built between 2004 and 2007, just 1,270 were made. The carbon fiber monocoque was ahead of its time. It had a pushrod suspension system straight from F1. The clutch was tiny, the gear lever was topped with beechwood. Every part was engineered for feel and fury. It could hit 60 miles per hour in 3.5 seconds, but that was never the point. It was about the sound, the engagement, the terror. The Carrera GT punished mistakes and rewarded bravery. It became infamous for high-profile crashes. But to those who could tame it, it offered purity no modern car could touch. Today, it's revered as one of the greatest driver's cars ever built. A time capsule from when cars demanded more from their drivers and gave back even more in return. Porsche 959. The 959 was a spaceship in the 80s. Originally designed for Group B rally, it became the world's most advanced road car. Twin turbocharged flat six, all-wheel drive, adjustable suspension. It made 444 horsepower and hit 60 miles per hour in 3.6 seconds in 1986. Let that sink in. The 959 was filled with tech no one else dared use. Kevlar body panels, tire pressure monitoring, intelligent torque split. It was years ahead of Ferrari, Lamborghini, and everyone else. It dominated the Paris-Dakar rally, and it influenced every all-wheel drive Porsche that followed. Only 337 production units were built. It cost $225,000 new, but Porsche lost money on each one. It was more a proof of concept than a product. Even Bill Gates had one, and had to wait 13 years to drive it legally in the US. The 959 wasn't flashy, but it was brilliant. The thinking man's supercar, and a masterclass in Porsche's obsession with engineering. Porsche 911 GT3/GT2 RS. These are the extremes of the 911 family. The GT3 is the purist's dream. Naturally aspirated, rear-wheel drive, manual optional. It revs past 9,000 RPM and feels alive at any speed. Track-focused but road-legal. Carbon brakes, rear-wheel steering, massive aero. It's about precision and feel. Meanwhile, the GT2 RS is a monster. A twin-turbo 700 horsepower weapon that eats lap records. It's more intimidating, less forgiving, and absolutely ballistic. The GT2 RS holds the Nürburgring production lap record for a reason. It combines brute force with German discipline. Both GT cars are hand-built by Porsche Motorsport. They're loud, raw, and engineered with obsession. You don't drive them, you commit to them. They're not daily drivers, they're declarations. Proof that Porsche still builds machines for people who worship driving and fear nothing. Porsche RSR/Cupcars. These aren't street legal, but they're pure Porsche. The 911 RSR is Porsche's endurance racer, used in Le Mans, WEC, and IMSA. It moved the engine from rear to mid to improve balance. Every inch is functional. Air vents, diffuser, wing. The flat six wails like nothing else. No traction control, no comfort, just race mode. Then there's the Cup Car, a single-make race car used in Porsche Carrera Cup Series. Closer to a street car, but stripped and sharpened. Sequential gearbox, roll cage, fire system. These cars train the next generation of racers. You can buy one if you're serious enough. They aren't about looks, they're about lap times. And Porsche uses them to test tech for future road cars. Motorsport isn't a side gig for Porsche, it's the foundation. And these cars are proof. When Porsche goes racing, it doesn't play. It prepares, and then it wins. Porsche 912. The 912 was Porsche's bridge between past and future. Released in 1965, it looked just like the new 911, but had the engine from the 356. A 1.6-liter flat four made about 90 horsepower. It was lighter and better balanced than the 911, and more affordable, which made it a hit with enthusiasts who wanted Porsche style without the price. It handled beautifully thanks to its light front end, and it kept the spirit of the 356 alive for a few more years. The 912 was phased out in 1969 when the 914 arrived, but it briefly returned in 1976 as the 912E, a one-year-only US model with a VW-derived 2.0-liter engine. Only 2,099 were made. It filled a gap while Porsche readied the 924. The 912 was never flashy, but it played a vital role. It kept Porsche accessible. It proved less power didn't mean less fun, and today it's a cult classic in its own right. Porsche 914. Launched in 1969, the 914 was Porsche's first true mid-engine road car. It was a collaboration with Volkswagen to create an affordable sports car. The design was boxy, target top, and totally different from the 911. Most models had flat-four VW engines, but the 914/6 came with a real Porsche flat six from the 911T. Handling was razor sharp thanks to the mid-engine layout, but performance was modest in the base models. Still, the low weight and balance made it a joy to drive. It sold well, especially in the US. Over 118,000 were built. It raced in SCCA and even at Le Mans, but it was often looked down on by 911 purists. In hindsight, that was a mistake, because the 914 laid the groundwork for the Boxster and Cayman. It proved Porsche could do mid-engine magic long before it was trendy, and today, it's finally getting the love it deserves. Porsche 924/944/968. In the late 70s and 80s, Porsche went front-engine. It started with the 924 in 1976, a sports coupe with a front-mounted engine and rear transaxle. Balance was excellent. Performance? Not so much. But then came the 944. It fixed everything the 924 lacked. Wider body, better suspension, and a real Porsche engine. The 944 Turbo was a revelation. Fast, poised, and usable every day. Then came the 968 in 1991, the final evolution. It had a 3.0-liter inline-4, 6-speed manual, and gorgeous styling. All three models offered daily usability with sports car spirit, and they kept Porsche alive during tough years. They were dismissed for being different, but they were driver's cars through and through. Today, they're affordable classics, proof that Porsche's front-engine era deserves respect. Porsche 928. This was Porsche's boldest move. The 928 debuted in 1978 as a luxury Grand Tour. It was supposed to replace the 911 entirely. Front engine, rear-wheel drive, V8 power. It had pop-up headlights, futuristic styling, and a near-perfect 50-50 weight distribution. The 928S, S4, and GTS refined the formula. It was fast, smooth, and built for the Autobahn. But it never quite replaced the 911. Too heavy for purists, too sporty for luxury buyers. Still, it found its niche, and it quietly became one of Porsche's most advanced cars of its time, with innovations like Weissach axle suspension and digital dash displays. The 928 lasted until 1995, almost 2 decades of evolution and a loyal fan base who loved it for what it was. Not a 911, but a Porsche built for high-speed comfort. It was misunderstood but never mediocre, and it left a legacy all its own.